Hi YouTubers, Jar of Eyeballs here. Just wanted to go through the Mage Wars Forcemaster versus Warlord expansion. I wanted to show you a few cards that are in this edition and go through a scenario that is very similar to one that I encountered last night playing this game. So I'm going to pause now and show you some of the cards that I will be using, and then I will get back to the scenario. This here is the Forcemaster. She's one of the new mages. I was a little bit nervous about using her because she's not very creature-centric. She seems to be a little tricky to me, and sometimes I get nervous with things that are too tricky. I like just bashing people with big creatures. In any case, I played her last night for the first time, and I was very, very impressed. She was awfully fun to play with, and she managed to win the game. Let me go through some of her abilities with you quickly, and then I'll talk about some of the other cards I'm going to use, and I'll show you how I use them to win. Okay, Forcemaster has pretty normal statistics at the top. You can look those up. They resemble all the other mages to one degree or another. Trained in the Mind School, that's cool. This is a new one, Deflect. This is her special ability. It's a defense once per turn when she wants to, because she can spend a mana and block any attack if she gets a 7 or higher on it. Very useful, very efficient for 1 mana to block, multiple hits of damage. It's quite good. Down here is the ability that I think she's going to become really famous for. This is called a Force spell, and it's a quick spell. It can fire very far across the board. 2 squares away in this game is quite far. And she can basically suck somebody toward her either 1 or 2 squares. This ability turned out to be incredibly powerful, and I'm actually wondering if there's any way to counter this. I have to go online and figure out if this can be countered by normal means, jinxes or things like that. In any case, very good spell. She has on her side also the Invisible Stalker. This guy's very fun. He's got very low hit points, but he is incorporeal, which means he's very hard to kill with damage. You can only hit him with damage dice that deals with 1 damage. And the thing that really makes him stand out is that he's invisible, of course, being an invisible stalker. What that basically means is he is unable to be targeted until either he makes an attack and then he becomes visible, or until somebody uses a spell that targets everything in the square indiscriminately. He will get hit and perhaps die at that point. But anyway, he's hard to kill. He's expensive, but he's not inordinately expensive, and he deals 5 damage, which is pretty heavy. This guy's fun, and he will probably be a mainstay of many people's decks when they play Forcemaster. Other card I have here is something called the Thought Spore. This thing is like a floating weapons platform for the Forcemaster. It's a familiar, which means it can cast spells. It channels 1 mana, which is always good. It doesn't have a lot of hit points and it has no armor, and it deals terrible combat damage. But what it can do is basically spellbind a spell to it. So you can put any old thing you want on here, and it can just hover around because it flies and zap people from far away, and they basically have to deal with it because it's going to become really annoying if they keep getting blasted by somebody. So yeah, this is a really fun spell. The spell that I have attached to it is one of my new favorites. It may be an unsung workhorse of this game. I really think that this thing is going to become popular. It's Force Push. It only costs 3, which doesn't make it the best push spell, but the fact that it's so cheap is very nice in this game. So basically, from up to 2 squares away, you can push somebody 1 direction, 1 square in the direction you want, and that in itself is quite powerful. It is going to basically stop a creature that's coming too close to you from being able to hit you that turn if you can push it away far enough. Or it's going to disrupt the plans of a mage. If they have somebody who's slow, you just push them back 1 square, and it takes them another turn or 2 to get up to you. It's just very powerful. Now, never mind if you're throwing down cards like firewalls and things. You can shove them through at 6, and then if they want to get back at you, they got to walk through that wall again. So Force Push, I think, is going to be a good spell. That's what's on the Thoughts board, by the way. Okay, on to the Warlord. I'm not going to go through his special abilities right now. I don't have his card out. But he has a garrison post on the board. These are cool. It's a cheap conjuration, and it basically allows him to spawn creatures here. So it gives him more strategic reach when he's in the middle of a battle. If he needs to be able to chase somebody down or, who knows what, he can drop them in the garrison post, and that's pretty neat. All right, other cards that he has a Wall of Pikes in play. This is a pretty cool wall. It only works along the top edge here, but if anybody's coming from this side forward, it's going to hit him for 5 damage, and that's a pretty hefty amount of damage. If they walk through this way, they don't take any damage. But what I like about the Wall of Pikes is it's dirt cheap. It only costs 4. It basically serves the same function as all the other walls. It's just slightly more limited with the direction. But then again, you can always hide out an ambush on this side and walk through at your leisure while your opponent has to find a way around this thing. Anyway, cool wall. It's in play. Okay, I forgot a few other cards here. First of all, the Forcemaster had a Dancing Scimitar on her, which is something she equips, but it essentially acts as either a creature that attacks for 3, or it can be a defense each turn with for the mage. And basically, it's a dual functioning creature. It's basically like an automatic guard. Very powerful card. Doesn't deal a lot of damage, but it only costs 5. And of course, it has an upkeep of 1, which is expensive. But over about 5 turns, you figure you paid 10 mana for this thing. If it's even protected you once or twice, or maybe got in a few decent hits, then you have certainly made your mana worth out of it. So I think it's a cool card. She has this on herself. She's also armed with a Force Ring, which gives her an efficiency when she casts any Force spell. Remember, her special ability, one of them is a Force spell, so this ring would basically let her do that ability for free each turn. So for 3 mana, it's quite efficient, because if you only use that thing 3 times in a game, you just broke even, and if you use any others during the course of the game, which you probably will, then you get ahead of the game. This right here is probably this is one of the best cards in this new set, this sword. It is Forcemaster only, so it's basically an energy weapon she has. And as a quick attack, it does a very respectable 4 dice damage. It's ethereal damage. That's quite good just in and of itself. And piercing 2 is also pretty huge. It's going to take a lot of people down with that piercing 2. Her full attack is even more ridiculous. Her full attack down there basically can sweep or do double strike. So basically 8 dice worth of damage with this sword if she hits well with it. Now 8 dice is better than the Warlock, even fully armed. He rarely gets 8 dice worth. So this thing is pretty sweet. And the fact it's a cantrip means it just bounces back up to her spell book when it dies. So she has to recast it, but then she gets her awesome weapon. She has this on her too. Okay, a couple other spells here I just want to show you. The Force Hammer is something that the Force Mage will have. It's a pretty straightforward, pretty heavy-hitting attack spell. It deals 6 dice worth of damage, and it has a chance to slam somebody, which is a very good incapacitation and daze effect. Also, it deals 2 dice versus conjuration, so this is the hammer that you're going to use to smash down the Warlord's outposts right here. Force Hammer. The other spell, one of my new favorites, Force Crush, is basically like Big B's hand from D&D, any of you old D&D players out there. It grabs people and it crushes them, and it makes them restrained so they can't move out of the square. Essentially, you use this to pin their mage down, and then it holds them in place, and it deals 2 direct damage. So obviously, with the upkeep of 4, you're not going to use the spell on a little guy. You're probably going to use it on a big daddy. But anyway, hang on to it. It's going to be a friend of yours, you Force Mages out there. Okay, so it's now the Warlord's turn. He has initiative. I don't recall what the quick casts were for him, so he did something, and then he decided to move back one and throw a gigantic boulder at my mage. Here's the spell he did. It's called Hurl Boulder. It's a 7 damage dice dazing spell. It's quite powerful. It can go up to 2 spaces away, which is a good range for any spell. So he throws that boulder at my mage, and my mage fortunately has this deflection token. She decides to use it, so she rolls the 12-sided die and pays 1 mana, flips this over. Lucky for her, she manages to deflect the boulder, so that basically saves her at that moment. Alright, now what's the Warlord thinking at this point? Rightly or wrongly, his thinking was that he was going to slip behind this wall of pikes, perhaps remain in this square or even the one below it off the screen, and he's going to let his garrison post be the fulcrum of the battle. He's going to bring his men through this little outpost and force the Forcemaster to defend herself here, or sneak up behind her and get her from behind, if that makes any sense. That's his thinking. So now it's the Forcemaster's turn, and the first thing the Forcemaster did was activate the Thought Spore. And the Thought Spore has the spell Force Push in it, which can go up to 2 spaces away, and it can push somebody 1 zone in a direction of your choice. So in this case, there is no line of sight broken with the wall of pikes, so the Thought Spore can just use the spell, and I guess the Thought Spore flies as well, so even if there had been a line of sight break, the Thought Spore still could have done it. In any case, spends the mana, pushes the Warlord up to there, and that's the Thought Spore's turn. Next up we have the Mage, and the Mage is going to, using her Force Ring, which gives her the ability to do this for free, she is going to use her Force spell here, which normally would cost her 1. It's now free. She's going to basically suck the Warlord into the square, and now things are going to get ugly. So at this point, the Force Mage has a choice. Is she going to pound the enemy mage for 8, which is a very attractive option, or is she going to do something else? In this case, she opts to do something else, and she is going to basically force crush him, put this on him, and leave him to languish in the midst of his enemies. Hopefully this will hold him down, and then maybe next turn the mage can get even more damage on the Warlord. So, Force Crush. Next, the Invisible Stalker goes. Actually, the Invisible Stalker was invisible, and then the Invisible Stalker pounds and becomes visible briefly. So we just dealt 5 damage to the enemy Warlock. We also moved him from a safe zone here into a very unsafe spot here, and we locked him down. That was a pretty effective turn. The other thing that happened, which I forgot to mention, was the Scimitar got a beat in. The Scimitar gets a hit, so that's 8 damage, 8 dice worth of damage dealt with that turn. Okay, the very next turn, the Forcemaster gets initiative, and in this case, the Forcemaster I don't recall what the quick cast was. Okay, in this story, this scenario, the Forcemaster has initiative, and the Forcemaster is going to toss a Force Hammer at our friend here and blast him for 6 dice worth of damage. So that's 6. That's a quick cast. The enemy is going to heal himself, I think is what he did. I don't know if that was the right move. Probably wasn't, but who cares? Okay, next turn, the Forcemaster is going to just use a quick cast, a Force Hammer, and smash the enemy Warlock for, the enemy Warlord for 6 dice worth of damage, so that's 6. The Warlord is going to dispel the Force Crush, get rid of it. It dealt him 2 damage on upkeep, but he doesn't like to be pinned down. That's probably a smart move. And the Forcemaster this time is going to swing in for 8 dice worth of damage with Galvatar, so that's 8 more dice. The Warlord moves to here. Okay, it's the Forcemaster's initiative, and the Forcemaster is just going to be aggressive here. So the Forcemaster throws a Force Hammer at the enemy Warlock and hits him for 6 dice worth of damage. That's quite a lot. If she had chosen the Garrison Post, it would have been 8 dice worth and probably would have destroyed it. But she's got the Warlock in her grip. She wants to kill him, so she does that. Alright, the Warlord is going to dispel the Force Crush because it's really problematic that he has to remain in place, so he does that. He dispels it as his quick cast. Next, it is the Forcemaster's turn, and the Forcemaster is going to swing with Galvatar. Remember, this thing has double strike if she wants it to, so she's going to hit him for 8 dice worth of damage. That is a whole bunch of dice. Okay, that was a terrible roll, but in any case, you get the idea. So she pounds on him just pretty clearly and directly. Boom. Next up, we have the Warlord moves to here. Actually, no, that's not what he does. I'm sorry. No, the Warlord actually summons a Goblin Bomber, and this card is fun. It basically explodes and hits everything within a square for 4 dice worth of damage, and even better, slams and stuns everything. So the Warlord is hoping to get this thing out and have it blast his enemies while he is trying to make his getaway. So that's his thinking, rightly or wrongly. Next up, the Invisible Stalker gets to take a chunk out of the Mage over here, so that's another 5 dice worth of damage. And the Thought Spore here is basically going to use the Force Push to push the bomber out of the square. Now, the thing about the bomber's explosive ability is it's a full round action, so if you get it 1 square away from you, it's not going to be able to blow up the turn it arrives. And it's better to just push this thing away than it is to blow it up, because when it dies, or rather than kill it here, because when it dies it explodes. So anyway, pushes the Goblin Bomber some square over here, and let's calculate the number of dice that were done this turn. That was 6 dice plus 8 for the Forcemaster, that's 14, plus 5 for the Invisible Stalker. That's 19 dice worth of damage, plus whatever was hit last turn. And you can see basically that the Warlord is not going to be long for this earth. He goes down very quickly after this point. Every time he steps away, he's in danger of being basically brought back with this guy or with her. And so you can just suck him into your spider's web, crush him, hold him down, and game over.